Hi everyone, Miss Andronica is here, and today we are looking at planning in relation to data. So, when you first start off with your planning of data, you need to suggest a question to explore. So, what do you want to collect? What information do you need? And how, of course, are you going to collect it in the best possible and most accurate way? Keep the question short, clear, and simple. So, for example, you might want to collect information about the cars that come by the school. It could be anything in regards to the type of cars, whether it's brand or size or the amount of people that the cars hold. You might want to collect information about how many children are in each car, how many cars come past, what colors of the cars come past. So it depends on what you want to find and what question then you're going to ask. If you specifically want to know, okay, how could you look at the pickup system, how many cars are involved every day, then you'd have to take the tally of, simply the amount of cars. If it's the types of cars or the sorts of cars, then that's another type of data that you would need to then collect. Different data sources. There's something called primary data and secondary data. Data that you've collected yourself is the primary data. So that's you standing out in a car park, ticking off how many cars have come past. Or the secondary data that someone else has collected. So let's say someone else has already done this survey and they can already tell you that there's 200 cars that have come into the car park. For example, that's someone else's data. They're the one that have collected it and you are using it for your purposes. There's plenty of secondary data available, and there's a lot of data that, say, the government usually releases as well, especially in regards to, salaries, or in regards to population, in regards to types of, workers. So there's a lot of data that they have collected and, that you can find, of course, on the internet and other places for your research. And that's often the data that we use whenever you're getting into any sort of assignments, for example. Okay, so sampling. The population is the whole group that you are asking about. So it might not be the entire population of a country or of a village. It could be the population of the class. So population is dependent upon what or who you are asking. Of course, if you want to know statistics from an entire country of people, that is quite a large group. You're not necessarily going to be able to ask every single person in the country. So that's when a sample comes in. It is a part of that population. Usually 10% roughly is enough for a sample size. So we might survey, let's say, the school. We might select 10% of students to represent that survey, and that's enough for us to be able to get a general sample size and therefore the views generally of the population or the student body. Methods of data collection. So there's lots of different types. You've got surveys, questionnaires, which are printed questions that you just pass to someone and they complete on their own independently. You can have an interview with someone and ask a whole bunch of questions that you ask yourself. You can conduct experiments and then record observations. But with those observations, please be careful because you need to decide on a degree of accuracy for fairness. So if you're recording running times, for example, you might make a decision that you're going to record everything to the nearest second. Whatever that degree of accuracy is, it needs to be applied across the entire experiment or all observations that you're collecting. So there's lots of different methods of data collection. Often with data, it is about careful planning to ensure that you are collecting accurate and unbiased data. Please ensure and be aware of unknowingly applying your own views. So you want to make sure that there is an option for everyone and that it is unbiased so that you're not favoring one particular view over another. Let's get further into that. So data collection sheets, observation sheets particularly, these need to be really easy to use. You want to actually collect the data that you want. So you need to make sure that it's reflecting exactly what you need. If you have lots of different types of values, then use groups of data. 5 to 8 groups, a good amount, and groups should be of equal width without gaps or overlaps. So for example, you could have discrete data that you're counting, favorite snack, and you count all the people, let's say, you know, in a couple of classes or in a cohort, and there's the tally and there's the frequency. And so it's a matter of saying, what's your favorite snack, and you take the tally. For continuous data, and this is looking at that groups option, you can see that these groups were made. They're nice even groups, so reaction times here. Continuous data needs to be presented in that format so that there's no times overlapping, because remember, it's less than, say, 0.2 in that top bracket here, and then it's equal to or greater than 0.2. So even though it might look like it's overlapping, it's not, but it's making sure that there are no gaps. So that's very, very important. And then of course, once again, you can put the tallies down. These sorts of tables really help to organize, and that's why it's called an organization sheet. It helps to organize the data so it's nice and easy to use. Otherwise, you could just put down all of these reaction times separately and you'd end up having a big table like this, which is very difficult to read and then use. Okay, you need to really have it in a nice table to then be able to graph it and then draw conclusions from it. Questionnaires. So some further details in regards to questionnaires instead. Questions must be easy to understand and leading to very clear answers. So for an example like this, how much TV do you watch? If you leave that as an open answer, people could say a lot, not much. And that's not clear in regards to, you know, exactly how much is that. So you probably would want to give certain options in regards to how much TV do you watch. Is it less than an hour or more, etc., etc. So you want to give sort of brackets of answers so that you can specifically get very clear information. Questions must not give offense. So an example is having age brackets, because sometimes people don't like to give exactly their age. So instead they'll tick a box of, you know, 20 to 25 or 25 to 30, as opposed to saying, yes, I'm 24, for example. So you want to make sure that people have as much flexibility in the questionnaire as possible without getting offended at all. Questions must not be leading, and of course has to be without opinion. So you can't ask a question that, you know, please comment on the really fantastic movie that everyone enjoyed called etc. It's just leading, of course, the answers. Questions must be quick to answer. That really helps. A lot of people will not fill in a survey that takes too long, so, or a questionnaire that takes too long. So yes, no questions are nice, or tick boxes, like I mentioned with how much TV do you watch. If you have an options of, you know, tick boxes, less than an hour, 1 to 2 hours, etc., etc., it will help. They shouldn't have any gaps or overlaps. So you don't want to say less than an hour and then 2 or more, because what if there's someone was watching in between? So no gaps, no overlaps, and a full range of well-balanced answers. So one tick box for that TV question would be, I don't watch TV, because that could happen as well. So you need to include everybody. Usually questionnaires are trialed before use so that they are sure to be understood and obtain the necessary information. It's very important, if you are writing the questionnaire, to get someone else who was not writing it to have a quick check over it, because a fresh pair of eyes helps a lot and certainly ensures that, you know, if perhaps something's missed or if something's leading, they can tell you. And once again, should not be biased or leading in any way. Okay, needs to be inclusive so that everybody can have an answer. Otherwise, they will not fill in your questionnaire. Okay, thanks everyone.